Hey everybody! Today we're going to be making a triple chocolate mousse. Let's get baking. So as with any baking dish, you want to make sure you get all of your ingredients ready, though I don't know if mousse is considered a baking dish if we're not really baking it, but that is a point I can debate on later. But you just want to get your whipped cream to stiff peaks. That might just take a few minutes to get it there, and here I'm going to check to see where my whipping cream is at. And after lifting the attachment, you can tell that is at soft peaks, because once the attachment comes out of the whipped cream, the peak tips right over, that's at soft. So once it's at soft peaks, it only take a minute or two longer to get it to stiff peaks. As you can see, when it's lifted here, boom, it stays standing. And once it is at stiff peaks, we can go ahead and get that covered, struggle a little bit to get it there, and then move that into the refrigerator for later. And then for our chocolate, we're using semi-sweet and white chocolate Ghirardelli. I didn't have Ghirardelli for my milk chocolate, so I'm just going to use a generic brand, but it's okay. I would recommend using the best chocolate you can find, and the store didn't have it. Boo-hoo myself. That's perfectly okay. And then we're going to move to our eggies and get our egg yolks separated from our egg whites. Smashed it a little bit too hard on the cutting board there and get it all over Devin's cutting board, but that's fine. This is the way that I like to separate my egg yolks. You're just going to want to slide it gently between your hands so the egg yolk doesn't break, and just let the egg whites slide in between your little fingies until the egg yolk is separated. And then move on to the second egg, and I don't know what happened here. I went to tap it a little bit gentler and it didn't, and the egg just didn't want to cooperate. So we just moved on. It was fine. And then we're gonna get our sugar there into our egg yolks. And then here you just want to mix up your sugar and egg yolks until it's a nice creamy texture. Pretty much all of the sugar will be dissolved at the point it is finished. And it's getting there once it's nice and creamy and it's pretty liquidy. It's kind of like making mayonnaise, to be honest, but yeah, it's pretty drippy there. We know it's good. And then right before moving on to our actual custard, we're just going to make the gelatin. That's just water, gelatin, let it sit. It'll be fine. And then moving on to a pan that is set to low, my friends, low. This pan needs to be low. Add your milk. And you're just going to let it sit there and warm up. Remember, keep it on low. We don't want to heat it up too quickly, because then if it's too hot, problems can and will happen. But just let it sit there, let it warm up and be happy. I do not like it when the film forms on top of milk when you're heating it up, so I do like to agitate the milk a little bit. But yeah, I'm just going to let it sit there. I'm going to let it warm up. Once it's nice and steamy, right before it starts simmering, I'm going to take it off. But if you're unsure, go ahead and check it. Dip a spoon in there, give it a little tasty taste, take it off the heat. And you're going to stream in half of that milk, not all of it, just half of it, into your egg mixture. And while stirring, you want to make sure you're stirring it while you're adding your milk. Slowly stream in your milk and keep stirring it, because we don't want the egg to cook and start to curdle. So once you've got your egg and milk all mixed together, you're going to bring your milk egg mixture back to your pan that has the rest of your milk in it while still on low. Again, stirring, slowly adding back in your egg milk mixture. It's becoming a mouthful to say all these words. You're going to pour that all back in there. Continue to stir while your custard starts thickening. You might find yourselves tempted to warm up, turn up the heat on this mixture. But I assure you, friends, keep it on low. Because like I said, problems can and will happen. And if after doing all this work, you find out that it got too hot, your egg started curdling, and it's no longer a custard, you will be sad. I promise you, because then you'll have to start all over again. Get your egg yolks, get your milk, get your sugar, stir it all back up, put it back into the pan, and do it all over. And you will be sad, like I have, many times while doing this recipe. You might cry a little bit, but it will be okay. Rome was not built in a day. Custard does not set in a minute. So just keep stirring, keep the faith. You will get there eventually. I promise you. It will come. So after suffering for what feels like a lifetime. You can check your custard to see if it's ready by dipping a spoon on it, and then if you wipe the back of it, run a finger, the custard does not come together quickly in the center, you know it is ready to go. So just take it off the heat, add your gelatin in there, and you're just going to stir until it's fully dissolved, and we can move on to adding the custard to the chocolate. Separate your custard between your 3 chocolates. You kind of want to do this quickly, which is why I am just kind of eyeballing it, because you want to make sure that the custard stays warm and hot long enough in order to melt your chocolate. Unfortunately, my custard did not. I blame my house being cold. We didn't turn our heat on yet, which, you know, for good reason, not in this economy, we're not turning our heat on yet. But have no fear if your chocolate does not melt, because just like a double boiler, you can use the steam from boiling water to help you assist in melting your chocolate. And once your chocolate is nice and melted, you want to let it reach at least room temperature or even cooler before adding your whipped cream, because if you add your whipped cream while it's still hot, it will melt the whipped cream and kind of deflate it. So if you're impatient like I am, you can use a nice bowl of ice water to assist in cooling it down quicker. Just put your bowl in there. Obviously, don't let the water get into it because that'll be an icky mess. And just use that to help you chill down your chocolate, because as the bowl cools down, the chocolate cools down, etc., etc. Then once all of your chocolate custards are ready, go ahead and get your whipped cream and dollop a few spoonfuls into your custards, and then go ahead and just fold it in there. If you do notice that your chocolate was still a little bit warm and that your whipped cream does start deflating a little bit, I promise you it's fine. This is a very forgiving recipe. You are going to be putting your mousse into the freezer and refrigerator as each layer is setting. So if you notice it's super soupy like this is, I promise you I'm not making ice cream. It will firm up as it's in the freezer and refrigerator. So it's a very forgiving recipe, and I promise you, you're going to be perfectly fine. But once you're ready, we're going to go with that first layer. It's going to be a very generous serving. This can make 4, but I am making 2. A very generous 2 servings of this. You're going to get that first layer ready. And then once that first layer is ready, go and take those. We're going to stick them in the freezer. And then for our whipped cream, just put as much sugar as you want. You know how you like it. Give it a little tasty taste there in the end after it's stirred up, and it's good to go. After that first 15 minutes, go ahead and put the second layer, and then we will repeat with the other layer as well. And then you're going to have this cute little handsome man like this. Go ahead and dollop it with some of your whipped cream. Perfect. And then if you want to be super fancy, go ahead and sprinkle on some powdered chocolate. And if you want to be even fancier, some shaved chocolate on top of that. Now we'll give it a little tasty taste. I would let you hear my response to this, but if you couldn't tell from the background, my dogs were absolutely vultures circling me like a piece of meat. But I promise you, this was absolutely delicious. Now, if you do decide to make this recipe, have no fear, you're going to do great. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the kitchen next time.